All right, you ready to shoot, Matt? A little Aeroblade action. Okay, here we go. Hey folks, this is Rack James from ORS Racks Direct in Vermont. Today I'm going to show you two crossbar options from Thule using their Aeroblade bar. And these are crossbar options for vehicles with raised side rails, such as those on this lovely Subaru Forester here, which, if you'll notice, is covered in salt and grime, as any good Vermont car should be this time of year. Anyway, raised side rails are pretty common, and there are lots and lots of crossbar options for vehicles with raised side rails. So let's assume you're going to choose Thule. In the Thule family, you have to decide between the Aeroblade bar and the standard square bar, first of all. Standard square bar, we all know and love it. There it is right there. It's actually a rectangular bar, but they call it a square bar. And then there's the Aeroblade bar. It's aluminum. It's got an aerodynamic shape to it. The idea, other than it looks nice, it's made of aluminum, so it doesn't corrode or rust, I should say, is that air, when it hits the front end of it, it just sort of flows over the top and under the bottom and kind of meets in the middle or in the back. So it's a much smoother airflow over the bar, so it doesn't cause all that turbulence that the square bar causes that makes a lot of noise. So it's quieter and also more efficient. So let's say now you've decided, okay, Aeroblade is for me. Well, with the Aeroblade, there's two options. You have the 450R Rapid Crossroad option, which is an Aeroblade bar with the Rapid 450R Rapid Crossroad foot, and you have the Aeroblade Edge option. So quickly, the difference. The Aeroblade Edge is the newer style, and it's a flush bar, so the crossbar does not overhang at all on each end. It basically runs from side to side on the inside of the side rail. It also sits a little bit lower, so it's a lower profile, kind of a cleaner look, looks a little more integrated. Disadvantage, you don't get as much usable crossbar space, and sometimes having the bar lower in relation to the roof might be a disadvantage if you, say, have a sunroof, or you've got mounting hardware on your cargo box that drops down quite a bit and you need a little more room between the bottom of the bar and the roof. You might not want to go with the Aeroblade Edge, because it basically puts the crossbar pretty much level with your side rails. In certain vehicles, the side rails are really low, so something to consider. So I'm just going to show you the difference. We're going to do a quick install, and you can decide, hopefully by yourself, which one you prefer. All right? So we'll start out with the 450R Rapid Crossroad, which is the original Aeroblade bar option. On the Subaru Forester, it calls for a 47-inch bar. The one thing about the Aeroblade Edge, the way that the foot attaches, here's the foot, is it slides into this channel on the underside of the bar. And it has about 9 3/8 of travel. Simply slide the, if I kind of look at, here we go. So move that out of the way. So that's how much travel this thing has. So that basically means that there's a range of widths of side rails that this will accommodate. In some cases, you can actually upsize to a larger bar. And here's one example where you can. As long as you know the distance between your side rails, you can reference the handy-dandy crossbar upsizer chart found in the tech manual, which I'm sure you have. If not, give us a call. But it basically tells you which bars will work for your vehicle based on the width of your side rails. And in this case, the 47-inch bar is the one that's recommended in the fit guide, but the 53-inch bar also works. But here's the 47-inch bar. So basically, to install, you basically slide, as I showed you, slide the foot into that channel. You got your end cap here that pops on. The strip gets pressed into the T-slot, and I'll show you how that works in the next, when we do the Aeroblade Edge. And it's basically ready to go. You probably can't see this, but right there's a little arrow. That little arrow is where the foot needs to sit on top of the side rail. And here's how easy this thing is to install. Basically, come over to your vehicle, drop the foot on top. Make sure that the arrow is centered over the crossbar. The end cap, by the way, here it is, has a wrench built into it, and that's what you're going to use to tighten the rubber-coated flexible steel strap. The strap goes underneath the side rail, back into the foot, so you got a 360-degree wrap. And actually, check it out, the bar is backwards. Yeah, I'm really glad I did this. And a lot of people would not think that this is backwards. They would think that the pointy end goes in the front, but like an airplane wing, it's the blunt end that goes in the front. So, we've gotten that straightened out. All right, there we go. Back to it. So again, the strap comes around, pops into the foot. Whoops, just like that. You take your end cap, and you just simply tighten it. Now, you will obviously want to, center it. And the bar will slide. So you kind of eyeball it. You can get real finicky and measure. There's actually little gradiated marks on the underside of this strip, which when you have it installed, you want to slide that plastic strip all the way to the end so that air can't get caught under there and whistle. But once you've got this tight, then you simply take the end cap. There we go. That's about good. You pop it right back in, and it's installed. There's a spot right there for a lock core. It's not necessary, but if you want to lock your crossbar to the roof, then you can buy those as an accessory. You just pop that little black cap out, lock core goes in, and you lock the crossbar to the side rail. So there it is installed. You can see that the bar sits, a few inches above the top of the side rail. Some people aren't crazy about that. They want a lower profile design. They don't want any crossbar overhang. If that sounds like you, then you can check out the Aeroblade Edge. Now there are 4 different lengths, and whatever length the fit guide recommends is the length you're stuck with. This is a flush bar. There's no overhang. There's no way to get a longer bar. So in the case of the 2013 Subaru Forester, it is the 7502 Aeroblade Edge, and that's the same for front and back. In some cases with the Aeroblade Edge, you will actually have a longer bar in the front because side rails are often tapered, so they're wider in the front and they get narrower toward the back. So in some cases, you might have a 7503 in the front and a 7502 in the back. But in this car, it's 7502 front and back. All right, not a lot of setup here. First of all, these little spring-loaded feet, which are pre-installed, take care of the centering for you. So there's no need to measure or eyeball to center. It'll center automatically once you install it. The rubber strip just gets installed by pressing it down carefully, just like that. Okay, and the T-slots are there for certain accessories to integrate into using like T-bolts, X-Adapt kits. Certain accessories are designed to attach into that T-track. Others will just clamp around the bar like your average, ordinary, everyday accessory. Just make sure that that strip is nice and flat, flush, push down all the way, and if it is, it won't pop out. Then of course you're going to want to cut it at the end to length, and I'm not going to do that though, because then we'd have to replace it, and no need for that. So pretend I cut this. Then you've got your end caps, or these pieces here, which let's see, I'll go over here on this side so I don't have to cut that. See, that's what it looks like when you cut it, just like that. See, nice and trim. These are ultimately going to go on top, and then you have these little plastic plugs which are used to hold this thing down if you decide to not buy lock cores. If you decide to buy lock cores, the lock core goes in there, and just like with the 450R foot back there, it locks the crossbar system to the roof. But before we put that cap on, the one thing that you need to do is install this strap. So there's our flexible steel rubber coated strap that will give a 360-degree wrap around the side rail. There are 4 spots that you need to determine which one is appropriate for your side rail. And Thule has made it really, really easy. They have, in the instructions, given you a little tape measure here. And all you do is you take this instruction pamphlet, you wrap it around your side rail, and you use it to determine how thick they are. This is about 15.5 centimeters, so 150 millimeters. Then you go to your handy-dandy chart, found on page 2 or 3 or 4 here. Aha, there it is. And 135 to 163 millimeters, hole number 3. Okay, thank you very much. So I know now that I have to attach hole number 3 onto the foot. And there's a little metal tab that's going to catch that hole. So you put it in there up to 3, and you kind of drop it on there and pull, and it's engaged. So now you can see what's going to happen. This is going to come around, and there's these 2 posts that these holes are going to pop onto. There's our 360-degree wrap, and then you've got a wrench which you use to tighten onto the side rail. All right, so now we're going to go put this on the roof and we'll take a look and see how it looks. Okay, so when it comes to tightening this thing down, the Aeroblade Edge is a pretty nice feature. This wrench is a torque wrench, and when you reach the correct tightness on the side rail, it clutches out. So, as you saw earlier in the video, the steel rubber-coated strap comes around the underside of the side rail, and the two holes drop onto those two posts, and then you just get to tightening. The instructions suggest alternating, so from one side to the other when you tighten. So, you know, I did about 10 turns on this side, went over to the other side, did about 10 turns. That way I think it helps the bar sort of center a little easier. In other words, if you were to tighten all the way onto one side, it might actually not be centered, and maybe an edge would I don't think it would show, but it's just nice to kind of keep it as centered as possible. And to do that, you just alternate. So, tight until right there. The wrench just clicks, and that lets you know that it is perfectly tightened. It's not going anywhere. And then you just pop on that end cap piece like that, and you drop the fake lock core down in there and turn it. And you know, it only goes in one direction, so if it doesn't turn easily, you just take it off again, spin it around 180 degrees, and there we go. Boom. So now it is not going anywhere and in place. So there you go. You can get a pretty good look at the two options. You'll see that the Aeroblade Edge, first of all, is flush, so it doesn't have any overhang, and it sits about 2 inches lower. So, you know, again, kind of a cleaner look, a little lower, certainly lower profile, but you don't have as much usable crossbar space. With the 450, you got longer crossbars, and again, you can put the 53-inch bars if you want. You know, so if you're thinking you want to carry a cargo box and 2 bikes, then you're going to have to go with something like this option. But if you're just carrying like 1 or 2 bikes only, or just a cargo box, you know, or a kayak rack, then this could be a perfectly suitable option. The other thing about the Aeroblade Edge, the Rapid Crossroad option, is, you know, if you are putting, say, a canoe on top, the load strap can kind of come underneath the bar rather than having to sort of fish it underneath over here. So it's a little easier maybe to load and unload. I don't know. If it all comes down to aesthetics, then you can decide which one you think looks better. As far as tightening this guy, I didn't mention, you know, there's no torque built in, so it's really, you just tighten it until it's, you know, good and tight. Which you don't have to over tighten it. I mean, this strap is super strong, and you know, just a good bit of resistance. I mean, I can't really describe how tight that is, but you know, if you can rock the whole vehicle, I mean, that's not going anywhere. You'd be sure that that's going to be perfectly safe. All right, so hopefully that helps you decide between the Aeroblade Edge option or the 450R Rapid Crossroad option for vehicles with raised side rails. Raised side rails are side rails that you can, you know, put your hand underneath. So anyway, thanks for watching as always. I'm Rack James from ORS Racks Direct in Vermont. Have a good one.